What's up? It's your boy back at it again with another technical analysis and the video we like to call underrated throwers. Today we got a unique video, I should say, because we got Anatoli Bondarchuk, or Dr. B, who passed away recently, I think a year or two ago. I've been meaning to make this video, but I just keep forgetting. I believe he's a name that should be remembered for a very long time, as he has made a considerable influence on the sport as a coach and an athlete. But I think more so as a coach. I think a lot of people do not know who Anatoly Bondarchuk is. And to give you an idea of his coaching resume, before we even get into his athletic resume, which is really good too, his coaching resume, one, off the bat, he coached Yury Sedyk, the world record holder, so that alone, already a goated coach. Not only that, but he coached Dylan Armstrong, who I also made a video on a while ago, who is the Canadian national record holder for shot put and a bronze medalist in the 2008 Olympics, and I think the silver medalist in the 2011 World Champs. So he's good at coaching both hammer and shot. Not to mention that Dylan Armstrong also went on to coach, well, he's the current coach right now of the defending men's hammer world champion. I forget his name. Of this of the winner of this past world championships for the men's hammer. So already his influence is already passing through this generation as well. Not to mention the countless other people he's worked with. I mean, he's oh geez, excuse me. He's coached a lot of very highly athletes like Justin Rhodey, who people might know nowadays as the creator of Rhodey Sport and the Rhodey glove and all that. He coached him in shot put. He's coached countless other hammer throwers, several 80+ meter hammer throwers. He's probably best known for his training methods, which I won't really go into because that's not really about this series. You can always just look up videos. There's interviews and stuff, just him talking about. But he was a Soviet era thrower, and Dr. B had a really big emphasis on power training and speed training in the throwing world, and emphasis on the weight room and what different exercises and how to actually move in the weight room, and to really put an emphasis on athleticism in the weight room, and just a bunch of other stuff. So he really had an impact in how throwers lift even today. So that's also another really good thing that he's done. But as an athlete, he's Olympic gold medalist, Olympic bronze medalist, and a couple-time European medalist, European Championship medalist. And while competing against several really good hammer throwers as well, several 80-meter hammer throwers. And yeah, let's get into his throw. As per usual, I will link his personal best, height and weight, and his notable accomplishments in the chat. And so not the chat, with the video description. And let's get into it. Now, I will say, his hammer technique is very, should I say, of the era. I personally don't like the way he throws. Starting with these winds, I don't like all this shoulder movement and going back and forth. I personally like pretty static winds, and not that much movement with the upper body. I like the hip movement. And you notice when he winds, his hips are forward when it's behind his head, and he's back behind it when when it's in front of him, and that's establishing a good counter. So right off the bat, I don't like this. I don't like how wide he is. And this will probably be my most critical video of any underrated thrower. But I can't argue with the Olympic champion. So this style worked for him. I'm just saying, me personally, I don't agree with how he's throwing. I think he gets away with a lot of stuff. So let's see. So that's personally, I would like him to be a little shorter in his feet, but that's just him, I guess. It doesn't really, I guess it does affect him. So his first turn's okay, picks up a little early, and that's going to be a big theme here, picking up early. So steps wide, I would personally like that to be tighter and a little more over his left. And then right here, you see this head movement that he does, and he did that on the first turn. He really likes to turn his head, and I would consider that he's probably the furthest hammer thrower that pulls the hammer. So I would consider this pulling and dragging, because the other hammer throwers that I've seen and that I've done videos on, they keep the hammer in line with their right knee. His hands are behind his right knee, and they're going to stay like that. And one could argue he does this to create separation and to catch it really deep, which he kind of doesn't. And I personally do not like this because I feel like you can't move the hammer that optimally. But this works for him because he's an absolute animal. So if you're an absolute animal, you can get away with some stuff. And that's a theme in a lot of the videos I say. Because a lot of these throwers, one of the reasons they're underrated is because they're unique. And you don't see a lot of throwers nowadays throw like this. And I think it's for a reason. And it's weird because the people he's coached do not throw like this. So I think it's more of an individual thing for him that worked. So, and again, this was in he won the 72 Olympics. So this was hammer, like boom, like people started throwing really, really far, like 83 plus. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, but right here, I personally would like that hammer when you're already here to be like here and to just work it there. So then your high point will be here, and then you'll catch it here, and then you work it to zero again. I'm a big believer in keeping grounded as long as possible. So then when it's at the high point, you hang on it, you hang on the hammer while it's at its high point, and then you just step. And that keeps you tremendously balanced, and you instead of catching it here, if it will stop, you'll catch it like here, and you'll have all this time instead of all this time to work the hammer. And another thing I don't like is his wide feet. I do not like this. Now, he has to have wide feet because he's dragging the living hell out of the hammer. So if he didn't have wide feet, he would be super off balance. So this technique is very tailored to him, in my opinion. Again, he's a legend, and I respect him as a coach and as an athlete. I'm not an Olympic champion, so, screw me, I guess. But, I mean, these are just all my opinions. So don't get angry at me, throwing community. All right. I just have not really seen that many really, really good throwers throw like this. And I suspect, again, this is very individual to him because none of the people he's coached throw like this. All right. You see Yury Sedyk throw. He does not throw like this. And one thing in common they both have is they're three-turners. But Yury Sedyk, when he throws, really pushes it really well, catches it really deep, and has really tight feet. And he throws basically the opposite of how he throws, of how Dr. B coaches. I know Dr. B throws. So he got here, and I will say through all of this, the one thing that I think saves him through the entire throw is his counter is impeccable. But right there, like if he was one of my athletes that I'm coaching right now, I would say you're pulling the living hell out of it and you're leading with the left shoulder. But again, if you're an absolute animal and you could just move the hammer, and you throw far enough to win the Olympics, I mean, what can you say? It's good enough to win the highest honor you could possibly do, so why not shoot? If it works for you, it works for you. And that's a big proponent I go to because there is like a textbook technique, but not everyone's the same. If I threw like Dr. B and hammer, I would suck. And I know that because I did. I didn't do it on purpose. It's because I wasn't a very good hammer thrower. So I know from experience that doesn't really work that well. I feel like if I changed my technique and I actually had competent coaches when I threw hammer, because I only threw hammer in my first 2 years of college, I would actually, have thrown further than 51 meters, but, whatever. So a lot of the things that he does in his throw is stuff that I personally did in my throw and was very wrong in doing. And so I'm coming from a place of of personal experience with this kind of style. But the one difference I had that he didn't is that I didn't have this wide feet. I had tight feet and I pulled. When you have tight feet and you pull, you're going to be really screwed and you're going to change your orbit. His orbit stays pretty same. So he has a pretty good orbit because he has the wide feet. And with the wide feet, it stops him from changing his high point. Because usually when you pull, instead of your high point being here, it will be here. And you don't want it here. You don't want it here. Because when it's there, think about it. When the high point's here, your low point's going to be here. And you're going to release it low and scoop it. You want to release the hammer at its high point like he does. All right? Because right now, if his high point was right... Oh, my God. What? If his high point was right here, he would be releasing it. It would be out of his hand by here. Instead, it's not. All right? And there are some ways you can tell if you're pulling. One, if you look at video and just see that your left shoulder is leading the entire throw and it's kind of up and hunched a little, like pressed against your neck, that's a sign of pulling. Another one is dragging, and what I mean by dragging is that the hammer is like your hands are behind your right hip. That's dragging. And dragging is usually caused by pulling. And that means that you're not actually moving the hammer, you're moving faster than the hammer. Now again, he's not doing that because he is an absolute savage and can just work the hammer no matter what. And he has a supremely good counter. Like, this is a really nice position. If the hammer was a little more in front of him, I would like it even more, but his counter is really impeccable. He really sits against the hammer. So that really helps him speed up the hammer a lot. Because your counter is not only important in not falling down, but your counter is also what creates speed and helps you push. If you have no counter, you can never accelerate the ball. Because the second you accelerate the ball with no counter, you're going to fall and it's going to pull you forward. So the counter is what creates that speed as well. So that's a very good thing that he's doing. Obviously, to win the Olympics, you probably are good at countering the hammer. So you're here. And I don't like how his head is pulling to the left, but I like the angle it's at. And you never want to force this angle, like this downward angle. How he's kind of like leaning his head a little. You never want to force that. All right, because it just happens. If you force that, that also creates pulling. Now, generally, you'll see a lot of hammer throwers do this because it's just how the body reacts when these kind of forces are being applied to you when you're throwing the hammer at a 70 plus meter throw. So it just naturally happens. You see basically every elite hammer thrower do this. Any like 70 plus meter hammer thrower you'll see with this head tilt. All right. So, and he has a really nice just sticks to finish, which I'm a big proponent of. And then the scream, let's go, and boom. And yeah, I think that's it. So I think his contributions go far beyond what he did as an athlete, although I'm not discrediting him because he's won an Olympics. But as a coach and as his theories on training, I think are the most underrated, are very underrated part of him. And if you're a diehard throwing fan, you definitely know who Dr. B is, or Anatoli Bondarchuk. You definitely know. A lot of people don't know that he was also a really, really good hammer thrower. And a lot of people don't know that he coached Yury Sedyk, who's the world champion. The world record holder. Well, he is a world champion too. But, he's the GOAT, so, he's one more. But whatever. He's coached Dylan Armstrong. And even to this day, people still preach Dr. B's training methods. And yeah, I just think he's a very, very underrated coach. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Oh, did I say that he died? No, he hasn't died. Sorry. I don't know why I was thinking of someone else. My apologies. He is not dead yet. Thank God, because I just remembered I saw a picture with him and Dylan Armstrong, like, at the World Championships. So, yeah, he's not dead. So that's my bad. I was thinking of someone else, a different coach. So, my B. But, yeah, let me know what you think, and see y'all later.